This video will be on report favorites in CenterPoint. Report favorites make it easier to find the reports you use in CenterPoint. We're going to go through how to add reports to your favorites tab and how to organize those reports. We're going to begin by going to reports, reports and reports. And when it comes up, the screen is first going to display my Reports tab, which is going to have all of the reports that we install with CenterPoint on there initially. Now, you might have different sections of reports than I have, or you might be missing ones that I have on my screen. And that's okay, because the reports that you see here are dependent on the module or the version of CenterPoint that you have installed. I happen to be in the agriculture version right now, and I have the module of Payroll installed on mine. So I might be seeing some additional reports than some of you have. Okay, if you open up each topic of reports, for example, if I open up this list of reports, it might open up a series of folders. And then if I open up one of those subfolders, you'll see the reports that are in that folder underneath there. Or if I open up a folder like financial statements, it might go straight to the reports. Okay, another way to find the report I'm looking for is the search bar up at the top. I could type in bank for bank register, and it's going to filter that list of reports for all of those reports that contain that name. So we're going to go ahead and highlight this bank register report. Now there's two ways that you can add reports to your favorites tab. And the first one is by simply right-clicking on the report and choosing to add it to your favorites. Now before I do that, I want to explain this report's criteria over here on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, whatever you select in terms of your date range, any other report criteria that you select over here, when you save it to your favorites, it's also going to default that same criteria in. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to add it to my favorites. And let's say that I'm doing this for my accountant. Now I can either name the report my bank register report, or I could name it bank register for accountant. Now that's not going to change the title at the top of the report. That's just simply changing the name that it's going to appear at on the list. And then I would just click OK. And you'll see that it went ahead and it added that bank register to my favorites. And over here on the right hand side, if you notice from before, it went ahead and it added it with the criteria that was already selected on that report. I'm going to go back over to the reports tab again, and I'm going to clear that. And we're going to add another one that way. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put in income statement, and I'm just going to highlight this income statement. And I'm also going to right click on that one, and I'm going to add it to my favorites. Maybe this is the income statement that my accountant wants as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call that one income statement for accountant. Okay, so we can go ahead and add other reports on there. So I can come here and I could just, right click on an income statement that we want to use internally, and then make my selections over on the right hand side that I want as my defaults. Right click and then go ahead and add it to the favorites. Now, in the past ones, I changed the name of the report. You don't have to change the name of the report. You can leave it as it is there and then click OK, and it'll get added underneath that name. Okay, so right click is one way to go ahead and add reports to your favorites. Okay, another way to add a report to your favorites is to go ahead and preview the report. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a balance sheet. Okay, and I'm going to select this balance sheet right here. Okay, if you go ahead and I'm going to select whatever parameters I wanted for this. So I'm just going to select one of my companies, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click preview. Okay, when you're on a balance sheet, or when you're on not necessarily a balance sheet, but any report that's here on the preview screen, the way to add a report to your favorites when you're on the preview screen is simply hitting the star button up on the toolbar that I'm highlighted on. And if you click on that, it'll pop up that same dialog box and ask you what you want to name it on your favorites list. So I'm going to go ahead and just call it balance sheet. Okay. Now, when you're on that preview screen, one of the things that it will do is it will go ahead and say, it'll not only save any changes you make to the report, but if you try to close the report before you save it to your favorites list, it'll prompt you to go ahead and save that. So let me go ahead and bring up a different report here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up an income statement, and I'm going to run this income statement this year to date. No, I'm going to run this income statement for this month. Okay, now I might not have anything on my income statement when I run it for this month, but the reason I'm doing that is because I want to add a column here for year to date. So maybe I want an income statement that has my current period, but also has a year to date. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to columns, and I am going to add a column called current year to date amount. I'm just going to add that column there, current year to date amount right there. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click refresh on that. So now I've got a column that has my current period and my year to date period. And I want to save that as my favorites. Well, because I have made changes to it, I don't have to click on the star button. There's kind of a built-in protection so that you don't lose those changes. By when you click on the close, it detects that you've made that change. So you see here it's saying, do you want to save this as a report favorite? And I'm just going to go ahead and say yes then. And I'm going to say that this is income statement current and year to date. And then click OK. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to save it to my favorites list there. So those are the couple of the ways that we can go ahead and save it to our favorites list here. So now that we've added several reports to our favorites tab, let's learn how to organize those reports to make it even easier to find them. Okay, if we just take and somewhere on here, so notice I have a lot of income statements here. Okay, so I might want to go ahead and put those income statements into a folder. Or I might want to have a separate folder for financial statements than for my bank registers, for example. So I can go ahead and right click anywhere on the screen and I can choose to create a new folder. So when I do that, it's going to be highlighted there asking me to go ahead and create a new folder. So let's go ahead and call this financial statements. And then hit enter, and that goes ahead and creates the folder. So now to put reports into that folder, all I have to do is hold my left mouse button down on them and drag them to the folder. Now when you do that, that's an indication that you want to put that report in that folder. So it'll just go in the folder. And once there's reports in a folder, it'll now have this minus sign next to it that I can collapse up so that I don't have to see those unless I expand it out. So I'm going to continue to add income statements to that folder. Okay. So there I have a folder for financial statements. I might also come over here and add a balance sheet to that folder too. Okay. Now, I could create another folder, and I'm going to go ahead and call that folder bank reports. Oops, I accidentally hit enter on it too soon. So I'm going to right click on it because the right click gives you the option to rename the folder. So instead of being called new folder, I want it to be called banking reports. And then I'm going to take that report and I'm going to drag it into that folder. Within a folder, you could create additional subfolders. So I'm going to right click again and I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call it income statements. And then I'm going to take that folder and I'm going to drag it into financial statements. Okay, so now it's a subfolder of financial statements. Now I can take the income statements and drag it into that folder. So I'm just going to drag them into that folder there. And then I could right click again, create another new folder, call it balance sheets. Oops. Once again, I hit enter too early, so I'm going to right click and rename it, and I'm going to call it balance sheets. And then I'm going to make it be a subfolder of financial statements as well and drag the balance sheet in there. Okay, so that is a way to go ahead and create those different folders and get your reports organized into these different folders that you can then expand out or collapse out. A right click on your screen will also let you expand all of the groups. A right click will let you collapse all of the groups. Okay, to delete a single report from the Reports tab, you would right click on the report and choose to delete it. To delete an entire folder, you would right click on the you would highlight the folder and then right click on the folder and choose to delete it. So the right click gives you the option of renaming folders and reports, and it also gives you the option of deleting folders and or reports. Now, within a particular folder, you can organize reports even further than that. So let's say that I want this income statement to be on the top of the list. All I have to do is hold my left mouse button down and drag it up to the top, and it will go ahead and reposition it. And then your system will remember that change. Okay, now your favorites list, I just want to make a statement here that your favorites list is on your computer. So it'll be only your favorites list. Other people who might be, if you're on a network, other people who might be in that same database on the network could have different favorites lists. Okay, additionally, if you're in our cloud environment, people with a different login into the cloud can have different favorites list. Okay, so everybody's favorites list can be different there. Okay, now that we've added, now that we've created these folders and added several reports, to these different folders, you can go ahead and you might want, after you've added all of your report favorites to your favorites tab, you might want this to be the tab that you land on when you come to reports. Okay, so remember when I came to reports earlier, I'm just going to close it out. I'm going to go to reports and reports. It takes me to my reports tab, but you might want that to be your favorites tab. If you've added all of your reports that you use to that tab, it's likely that's the tab you want to go to. So to change that to be your default tab, we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Preferences. Okay, and down here at the bottom is a section called Reports, and the Reports preference that we're going to make that change on is the General tab. And we're going to go to the Application or the General preference. The tab we're going to go to is the Application tab. It's the only one that's enabled, and what application means is it means it's specific to your computer. So everybody would have to set their own preference here. Okay, so first off, the first preference that we have here says display database favorites. Now, remember when I said that your favorites tab is specific to your computer and that everybody might have a different favorites tab? Well, sometimes there are favorite reports that you want to share with other people that are in that same database. Okay, so we can add a database favorites tab to the list so that you can have a shared tab for everybody, but everybody has to turn on the database favorites first, and this is how we turn it on. So we're going to set that to yes. What it also does is sometimes you might want to have different favorites lists for the different databases you're in if you're someone who works with multiple databases. And that is a way to have a favorites list that is specific to that database. Okay, and then the section below that then, where it says default report tab, notice mine is set to reports. That's why when I went to the report screen, it defaulted to that tab. Well, now I'm going to have 3 tabs. I'm going to have a reports tab, a database tab, and a favorites tab. So I can set it to default to my favorites tab. Okay, and if I do that and I want to completely disable the reports tab so that I don't go to that tab anymore and then I'm only working with the favorites, I could set this to yes. I'm not. I'm going to leave mine at no. I don't want to disable my reports tab. Okay, and though the rest of these settings on the screen are not important for what we're discussing in this video, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save on that. And now when we go to Reports, and we go to Reports again, you're going to see that it automatically defaulted me coming to my Reports, my Favorites tab. Okay, but you're also going to notice that there is a database favorites tab. Now I actually have a couple reports on there and I'm going to delete them just so that we can see when I add a report to here that it goes ahead and adds it there. So if I have a report on my favorites tab over here, it has to be on my favorites tab first. If I have a report over here that I want to add to my database favorites, all I have to do is open up to that report, right click on it and choose to add it to database, and you see that it comes over here to the database tab. Now the database tab works exactly like the favorites tab and how you can create folders over here, but you can't copy folders. You can only copy one report at a time over here. So I would need to establish my own folders on this tab. So I could right click, create a new folder, call it financial statements, and then drag that report into there. So it's you do everything the same way on this tab that you did on the favorites tab. It's just that it has its own set of folders and everything like that. Now, one thing that you can do with your favorites tab is that you could actually use the favorites to create what we call a batch of reports. Okay, a batch of reports allows you to have some reports that you want to go ahead and run all at one time. So if you sent them to print, they would print one after another. If you decided to export them, it would export them all out to a single file. Okay, so the batch reports are actually discussed in a separate video, but you'll notice here as I highlight income statement, it's based off of you creating these folders. And as you highlight the top of the folder over here at the right-hand side, it has some criteria for running all of the reports within that folder as a batch. Okay, that is discussed in the batch reports video.